Have you ever noticed how society celebrates youth like it's the only season that matters? You see it in the ads, the magazines, the way people talk about staying young like aging is something to be feared, hidden, or avoided. But the truth is, there is a quiet kind of strength that only comes with age. A depth that no wrinkle cream or gym membership can offer. And chances are, if you're over 70, you've already grown into a kind of power that most people don't even recognize. Not the kind that shouts or demands attention, but the kind that stands steady when life shakes. You've lived through love and loss, triumph and heartbreak. You've made hard choices. You've walked through years that would have broken a younger version of yourself, and yet here you are, still standing, still giving, still carrying a wisdom that can't be Googled. This video is a gentle reminder of that strength, a journey through 7 hidden powers that age brings quietly, patiently, beautifully. Powers that most people overlook, but that live within you right now. So, if you've ever felt invisible, underestimated, or like the world has moved past you, stay with me. What you carry within you may be exactly what this world needs more of. The first hidden power that aging brings is something younger people rarely have: perspective. When you're young, everything feels urgent. Every mistake feels final. Every decision feels life or math, and the smallest setback can feel like the end of the world. But when you've lived through enough seasons, you start to see things differently. You know now that most storms pass, that what feels like the end is often just a new beginning in disguise. You understand that time doesn't always heal everything, but it teaches you how to live with grace through the scars. That's perspective, and it's a quiet superpower. I once met a man named Harold, 82 years old, who had survived the Great Depression, 2 wars, and the loss of his beloved wife. And yet when the market crashed again a few years ago and people were panicking, he calmly said, "This too shall pass, it always does." That's not just wisdom, it's earned clarity. He had seen the world crumble and rebuild itself more than once. He didn't panic because he understood the rhythm of life. And maybe you do too. Maybe you've learned that not everything deserves your energy, that some arguments are best left alone, and that peace often comes when you stop needing to be right. That's perspective, and it's a strength the world deeply needs, especially right now. So if you've found yourself offering comfort when others spiral, or staying calm when chaos swirls around you, that's not just age, that's power. And it's one of the most beautiful gifts you carry. The second hidden power that often blossoms with age is the power of presence. In our younger years, life often feels like a race, always something to chase, something to fix, someone to become. Our calendars were full, but our hearts often scattered. We thought multitasking was strength. We believed being busy meant being important. But as time passes, life starts to whisper something else. You begin to realize that rushing isn't the same as living, that you don't need to be everywhere with everyone doing everything. You just need to be here, now, fully. That's the quiet, beautiful power of presence. When you're present, you no longer live in what if or what was. You begin to live in what is. And what is can be deeply peaceful. It's the feel of warm sunlight on your back while you water the garden. It's the soft sound of your partner's breathing beside you in the early morning. It's the full experience of drinking a cup of tea without checking your phone, your watch, or your worries. I once spoke with a gentleman named Albert, 81, who told me, "When I was younger, I lived like I was always late to something. Now I just try to show up to my own life." And isn't that beautiful? Because when you finally begin to show up, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, something changes. Life stops being a blur and starts becoming a blessing. Maybe that's you too. Maybe you've begun to treasure the small things in a big way, and if you have, I'd love to know. Leave me a comment below that simply says, "Still here." Let me know you're with me, soaking in these quiet truths together. Because presence, my friend, is not a passive thing. It is an active, intentional strength. And it might just be the most powerful way to live the years ahead. Not chasing time, but inhabiting it. The third hidden power that aging brings is emotional strength. Not the kind that makes headlines, but the kind that holds people together in quiet rooms when no one's watching. You see, life will test your heart more than your body. It'll stretch it with loss, disappointment, grief, and change. And while those things hurt, Deeply, they also shape something unshakable within you. When you've lived through enough storms, you no longer fear every dark cloud. You know how to breathe through it, you know how to keep going, even when the road feels uncertain. That is strength, and it's one the world rarely praises, but always needs. I once spoke with a woman named Joan, 79 years old, who lost her husband after 52 years of marriage. I thought I wouldn't survive it, she told me. But one day, I heard our favorite song on the radio, and instead of crying, I smiled. Not because the pain was gone, but because I had learned how to carry it differently. That is emotional strength. It's not about pretending you're fine. It's about holding space for pain and peace to exist together. It's about being able to cry when you need to and still offer comfort to others. It's about knowing that healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means honoring. And maybe you've done this too. Maybe you've learned how to wake up each day with a little bit of ache in your chest and still make breakfast. Still laugh, still call a friend. That, my dear, is nothing short of heroic. So if you've made it through heartbreak, through illness, through moments that brought you to your knees, and you're still standing, still loving, still hoping, take a moment right now to recognize your own strength. You've earned it. And if you're still with me in this video, leave a comment below that says still strong. Let's celebrate not just survival, but the quiet, resilient hearts that carry us forward day after day. The fourth hidden power of aging is the power of true listening. Not just hearing words, but receiving them with the kind of patience and presence that only experience can teach. When we're younger, we often listen to reply. We wait for our turn to speak, to correct, to fix. But as we grow older, something shifts. We start listening to understand. We begin to recognize that most people don't need answers. They need to be heard deeply and without judgment. And that is a rare and healing gift. I remember once visiting a small retirement group where an elderly man named Richard sat quietly during most conversations. He rarely chimed in. But when someone shared something hard, about a loss or a fear or a regret, everyone instinctively looked to Richard. Not because he had all the answers, but because he listened in a way that made people feel safe, valued, seen. Later, someone said to me, "He doesn't talk much, but when he does, you feel like he truly heard your heart." That's true listening. It comes from a lifetime of knowing what really matters and what doesn't. Perhaps you've felt this power growing in you too. You've learned that silence isn't awkward, it's often sacred. That holding space for someone's pain is more powerful than any advice. That your presence, your attention, your gentle nod can say more than 1,000 words. In a noisy world full of opinions and shouting, your calm ear is a gift. And here's a little something I'd love to know. If you've discovered that listening has become one of your quiet strengths, leave a comment below and write, "I hear with my heart." Let's remind each other that sometimes we do the most good simply by being present, open, patient, and willing to hold someone else's truth without rushing to fix it. The fifth hidden power that often blossoms with age is the power of letting go, and not the kind that feels like defeat, the kind that feels like freedom. You see, when we're younger, we carry so much. Expectations, grudges, mistakes, what-ifs, should-haves. We hold on tightly to people who left, to things that didn't happen, to versions of ourselves we thought we had to be. But as time goes on, you start to realize something quietly liberating. You don't have to carry it all anymore. You get to put it down. You get to breathe lighter. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing peace over pressure. It means forgiving, not because someone else deserves it, but because your heart does. It means releasing the need to prove yourself, to explain your choices, to meet everyone's expectations. It means saying, "I did my best. I don't need to carry this anymore." I once met a woman named Louise, 84 years old, who told me she had spent decades being angry at her sister over something that happened when they were in their 30s. "I lost so much time being right," she said softly, "and one day I just woke up and realized being right isn't worth being alone." So she wrote her sister a letter, they cried, and then they laughed, and then they had 3 more beautiful years together before her sister passed. That's the power of letting go. It restores connection, it softens the edges, it gives you back time, not in years, but in moments that matter. Maybe there's something, or someone, you've held on to a little too tightly. Maybe it's time to release it, to make space for something lighter. And if this resonates with you, I'd be honored if you left a comment below saying, "I let go." No need to explain, just a quiet declaration that you're ready to free your heart, even just a little. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop carrying what no longer belongs to you. The sixth hidden power that comes with age is the power of quiet influence. When we're younger, we often believe that influence comes from volume, from being the loudest, the fastest, the most impressive in the room. But the older you get, the more you understand. Real influence doesn't always raise its voice. Sometimes it just shows up, steady and still, and changes everything without needing to be noticed. You see, as you age, people begin to listen differently, not because you're louder, but because your presence carries weight. You've seen more, you've lived longer, you've made mistakes and survived them. And that quiet authority, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything, that's powerful. I once visited a family gathering where the children were loud and the adults were distracted. But in the corner of the room sat Grandpa Leo, calm, listening, sipping tea. He didn't interrupt, he didn't correct anyone. But when he finally spoke, softly, slowly, the entire room fell silent, not because he demanded it, but because his words had gravity. His stillness made people lean in. That is quiet influence. Maybe you've noticed this in your own life too. You may not speak as often as you used to, but when you do, people pause. Maybe a younger friend calls you when they don't know what to do. Maybe a grandchild watches the way you move through life and learns more from your calm than from 1,000 lectures. That, dear friend, is your influence. Quiet, steady, and deeply felt. And if this speaks to your experience, if you've noticed the strength in your silence, the power in your calm, I invite you to comment below with quiet power. Let's remind one another that we don't need to shout to shape the world around us. Sometimes, the deepest influence comes from being present, listening fully, and living truthfully, even when no one's watching. The seventh and perhaps most profound hidden power of growing older is the power of legacy. And no, I'm not talking about money, property, or possessions. I'm talking about the invisible things, the lessons, the love, the quiet examples that ripple through generations long after you're gone. Because at the end of the day, we don't just leave behind things, we leave behind how we made people feel, what we stood for, how we showed up in the world. Legacy is not about being remembered by many, it's about being remembered deeply by a few. It's in the recipe you passed down, the way you held someone's hand when they were scared, the quiet strength you showed when life didn't go your way. It's in the stories you told, the laughter you shared, the forgiveness you gave even when it was hard. These are the things that live on. These are the pieces of you that matter most. I once met a woman named Evelyn, 85 years old, who never had children of her own, but when she passed, her neighbors filled the church. One stood up and said, "She never missed a birthday. She always had time for my kids. She taught me how to make chicken soup when I was sick and alone." Evelyn left no inheritance, but she left a legacy, one of kindness, presence, and care. And that kind of legacy cannot be measured. It can only be felt, carried, and passed on like a quiet flame. Maybe you don't realize it, but you're leaving a legacy every single day, in the way you listen, in the way you forgive, in the way you keep going. So if no one's told you lately, thank you. Thank you for every unspoken lesson you've taught the world simply by being who you are. And if this message touched your heart, I'd love for you to leave a comment below with "My legacy." It can be your way of quietly saying, "I am still here. I am still giving. And what I leave behind will matter." So now you've seen them, the 7 hidden powers of old age. Powers that the world doesn't always notice. Powers that don't sparkle or shout, but steady you in quiet moments and shine through the way you live, love, and lead. Maybe you didn't even realize you had them. Maybe you've been carrying them all along, the strength to stay calm in storms, the grace to forgive, the wisdom to let go, and the courage to keep showing up every single day. And that's what makes you extraordinary. Aging isn't about fading, it's about refining. Like a pearl shaped slowly over time, layer by layer. You've become softer, wiser, stronger. And if you've made it this far in the video, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here, for listening with your heart, and for allowing me to walk beside you, even just for a few minutes. Now I'd love to hear from you. Which of these powers spoke to you the most? Which one do you recognize in yourself or in someone you love? Leave me a comment below, even just a word, because your story matters and your presence here gives this space its meaning. If you found this video helpful, gentle, or inspiring, please consider subscribing to Wise Old People and turning on the notification bell. That simple act helps me create more heartfelt content just like this. Content made with care for people like you who still believe in kindness, in reflection, and in the quiet power of growing older with dignity. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, a friend, a parent, a neighbor, please share it. You never know whose heart might be lifted by a message like this one. Until next time, take care of yourself. You are not forgotten, you are not alone, you are wiser than you think, and stronger than you know.